You're listening to Horsemanship, Growth, and Gratitude with Miranda and Horsemanship, where we discuss training wins and fails, mindset, personal growth, and everything in between. So grab your favorite cup of coffee or reins and let's ride. Hey there, it's Miranda Allen, and welcome back to Horsemanship, Growth, and Gratitude. I am so excited to share this special episode with you today. This is a speech that I will be presenting at the 2026 Monroe County 4-H tax sale. I wanted to record it so that anyone who couldn't make it or just wanted to hear it again can listen to the full speech and not miss a thing. This talk is close to my heart because it's all about the foundation, the mindset, and the principles that make horsemanship safer, more confident, and more enjoyable for riders of all ages and experience levels. My hope is that it inspires you, gives you practical ideas that you can use with your horse, and maybe even spark some excitement to attend a future clinic or presentation. So let's dive in. Raise your hand if you have ever had a horse that has made you question your entire existence as a rider, like they have a secret manual that you didn't get. Horsemanship is all about learning how to read that secret manual. Good afternoon, my name is Miranda Allen. I started off right here in this very arena on an old Arab mare, where I was either winning ribbons or falling off. Some days it felt like there was no in between. And then I went on to spend over 25 years working with horses across the country, from riding, training, competing, studying, to just plain trying to figure out what really makes them tick. Now, as a horsemanship coach, my goal is to help riders increase their confidence, communication, and leadership with their horse. But more importantly, I love to help riders learn how to safely enjoy their horses again, and I do that through foundation-focused horsemanship. My goal today is to help you to see your horse in a new light. So what is horsemanship? Horsemanship is the ability to understand how and why your horse thinks, acts, reacts, and moves the way that they do. Because when we take the time to learn how to communicate with our horses in a way that is natural and easy for them to understand, we can set them up for so much more success. Horsemanship is about becoming a leader through earned trust. Horsemanship is constantly working on your own personal development. Because when you learn how to control your own mind, body, and energy, the better your relationships become and the stronger your horsemanship becomes. And that is your job as a horseman, to set your horse up for success. There are a lot of great trainers out there who can teach the how all day long, but I see many of them skipping the why. A rider might do well at a lesson when they're being told exactly what to do in real time, but when they come home on their own, they start second-guessing themselves. It's not that they don't know how to do it. It's just that they don't know when because they never fully understood why that they're doing something in the first place. That leads to poor timing, inconsistency, and frustration. I've learned that real progress doesn't come from being told what to do. It comes from understanding why you're doing it. So instead of starting with techniques, when I start with working with a client, I start with the why. To understand that why, we have to start with how the horse's mind works first. Your horse is wired for survival, not performance. Horses have been evolving for over 55 million years. Humans have only been around for 6 million years. For that entire time, the one constant is that they have been prey animals, meaning that every single day for the last 55 million years, they have been on somebody's lunch menu. That means that every single thing your horse does is filtered through one question. Am I safe? Not, am I winning? Am I performing well? Is my rider happy? Just, am I safe? Horses operate in two main modes, a thinking side and a reactive side. The thinking side is where learning happens. The reactive side is where survival happens, and the reactive side is naturally bigger. If your horse hears a snap in the bushes, he doesn't have time to pause and analyze it because it very likely is a mountain lion ready to make him lunch. React first, think later. That is how horses are wired. So when a horse spooks, rushes, overreacts, or gets tense, he's not being disrespectful. He's being alive. So how does that reactive side show up? Through fight or flight. 10 out of 10 times, a horse will choose flight first. Running is what their body was custom designed to do for the past 20 million years as plains animals. Only when a horse truly feels trapped and believes that they cannot get away will they resort to fighting, using hooves, teeth, and sheer size to defend themselves. And based on that sheer size and speed, you will never win. But here's the encouraging part. The brain is a muscle. So that means that the thinking side of the horse's mind can be strengthened. Just like any other muscle, the more you focus on one and not the other, the thinking side will grow and the reactive side will shrink. Now, no amount of training or love will ever override or diminish a horse's reactive side. However, it can go a long way when you take into consideration how a horse's mind works when training. So if survival depends on reacting correctly, how do horses in the wild make sure that everyone stays safe? Well, they rely on leadership. Leadership equals survival. In a perfect true wild herd, there would be one stallion who would protect against predators and outsiders, and a couple of lead mares, aka the boss mare. Now, one mare might be in charge of finding food and water, while the other one may be in charge of finding shelter or safe places to sleep away from predators, depending on each's strong suit. This is why it is so important to realize that when you are training your horse, you have to be their leader at all times. Now, that does not mean nitpicking or micromanaging. In fact, I train for the opposite. I want my horse to, hey, I put my hand down, you go off and do your job, I leave you alone. But the horse has to trust that when in a bind, you will be there to count on to tell them when and where to move their feet to safety. And if you're not acting as a leader, they will feel compelled that they have to step up and become the leader themselves. Some a little faster than others, but that is because leadership equals 55 million years of survival. So, how do we show the horse that we are in charge safely, clearly, and effectively? The answer is simple. You control the horse's mind through their feet. And to control their feet effectively, you work through the horse's 5 main body parts. The horse's 5 main body parts are the head, the neck, the shoulders, the rib cage, and the hindquarters. Your goal is to move these 5 main body parts individually and together, forward, backwards, left, and right, all by influencing their feet. Now, there are 3 ways to control the feet. You either create movement, redirect movement, or stop movement. Creating movement is about putting energy and intention into your horse's feet. You're asking them to move with purpose, and they respond to your direction. In the herd, the boss mare decides when and where the others move their feet. Don't believe me? Go home and put 1 bucket of grain out in the pasture full of 10 horses and see what happens. That boss mare is going to kick and squeal and pin her ears and get everyone away from her food real fast. When you create movement with your horse, you step into that same role. You're showing them that you decide when and where to move their feet, which builds respect, leadership, and helps your horse to feel safe and settled because they understand their place in the hierarchy. Now, if you have a horse that is full of energy, it doesn't matter if that energy is anxious, playful, aggressive, or just full of happy energy. Redirecting movement is perfect for this because instead of trying to stop that energy that doesn't want to be stopped, it's a lot easier to just redirect it. Think of it like this. You want to move your feet? That's fine, but you're going to move them over there when and where I tell you to. Just like the boss mare in the herd, you're showing leadership by guiding that horse's energy and their feet. Now, stopping movement is tough for horses because stopping and lying down is the absolute last thing that a horse does before he dies. Whether it's colic, laminitis, or a predator attack, all the same. They know that if they get off balance and or lie down, they are done for. So when we ask our horse to hobble, to lie down, or even just stand hide, we're asking them to override that natural fight or flight instinct. That's why stopping is often the hardest thing to teach. But done correctly, it's one of the best ways to engage the thinking side of the horse's mind. Now, there is always a fourth option to control the horse, and that is via fear, dominance, abuse, and mechanical manipulation. And unfortunately, there still are a lot of riders out there who take this approach. But besides it being inhumane, I can promise you that there will always come a day when that horse finds something scarier than you, and when that happens, you will be in a world of hurt. So how do we take this horse psychology and actually use it in training? Well, we start on the ground. Quick show of hands, who here lunges their horse? Have you ever noticed that sometimes your horse gets more worked up after running in circles than when they first started? That's because lunging is an amplifier. If a horse is already in a reactive state of mind, lunging is just going to amplify that. Some horses will get tired and comply more out of resentment, but many horses today are bred to be athletic machines. And what took 1 hour today to wear them out is going to take 2 hours next week. Groundwork is not lunging. Horses can lunge while being in a thinking state of mind. And I do use lunging with groundwork. But I want to make sure that it's clear that groundwork and lunging are not the same thing. Groundwork is a set of exercises that moves a horse's feet and 5 main body parts. And it flips the switch in their mind from the reactive to the thinking side. That is how we get the mind to work with us, not against us. When riders come to me feeling stuck with their horse, they often just need structure more than anything else. The foundational groundwork exercises I teach, I call the ABCs. These several exercises are essential for gaining control of the horse's mind and body, and they are designed to transition up under saddle smoothly and effectively. Most riders I meet have done some of these exercises to an extent before, but often without consistency from the lack of clear framework or understanding of why they're doing them in the first place. But once you know your ABCs, you have the building blocks for a solid foundation, and you are golden. A big pet peeve of mine is hearing riders say all the time that they don't care about groundwork and they just want to get onto the fun part of riding. But if they slowed down, they would see how rewarding it can be to actually watch your horse process information, shift from the reactive to the thinking side, build trust, and actually look forward to working with you. Groundwork is the best way to learn your horse's personality, what makes them tick, their pressure volume dial, and what holes that they have before you ever climb on. If you want to build a relationship with your horse, this is the best way to do it. Slowing down and prioritizing a connection first with our horses also changes from that natural take aspect that comes with riding, and it shifts it to our focus asking the horse, hey, what can I do for you? It never fails. The riders that I work with who don't prioritize and skip over the groundwork homework never advance. But those who say, okay, I'm all in, I'm going to trust giving your process a try, and they actually put in the work, they progress by leaps and bounds. Now let's move to riding. Everything we teach a horse on the ground should naturally flow up to riding under saddle. From the equipment we use, to our hand positions, to the feel and timing. The goal is consistency so that the horse knows exactly what to expect. We are, after all, just a predator on top of a prey animal. So if we can start off under saddle with the same feel as groundwork and build off that trust that we've already earned, this creates easy wins, which allows us to quickly build our horse's confidence and making riding less intimidating. While I wish I could cover everything there is about riding, today I wanted to touch base on 2 common struggles that I see riders unknowingly facing and 2 fundamental pieces that can completely change your success with your horse. The first big issue I see is inconsistency. Horses learn through repetition. I mean a lot of repetition. The more consistent your cues, the easier it is for your horse to understand what you actually want. A common example I see is that a lot of riders use a dozen different hand positions for the same cue, and rarely repeat them consistently. Without a clear step-by-step process for each maneuver, the rider doesn't even realize that they're being inconsistent. What ends up happening feels more like throwing spaghetti at the wall, which makes it nearly impossible for the horse to understand what is going on, leaving the horse more confused and frustrated. We don't need to overcomplicate. Horses are simple creatures. In reality, you only need 3 hand positions: lift, lead, and collect. You'll lift to pick up the shoulders, you'll lead to guide in the direction you want to go, and the 45-degree angle of the collect opens up the bit and creates clear communication. Consistency also comes from having clear, repeatable process for every maneuver. For example, when asking for lateral flexion at a walk, I follow the same steps every time. I pick up the reins, I slide down my inside rein to the right spot, I pause, then I squeeze, pause, and then I bring my inside hand to my thigh while also squeezing with my inside leg. I even visualize this maneuver first before I even touch the reins so that I can make sure that every cue feels the same and consistent to both me and the horse. Even a few inches off of your hand position or line of sight can completely change the message. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a horse disengaging their hindquarters when the rider is wanting lateral flexion just because the rider was looking or leaning a few ticks off. And it keeps throwing the horse off. And the rider looks at me of like, why is my horse doing this? What's going on? This is why I cannot stress enough that keeping cues and steps precise is what's going to build clarity, trust, and progress. Inconsistency almost always leads to the second big problem, and that is poor communication. The most common communication issue that I see is that riders do not give their horses enough warning that change is coming, let alone time to prepare. Horses hate surprise parties and being caught off balance. Why? Because predators love surprise parties and catching horses off balance. When you suddenly pull on the reins expecting a horse to stop or turn, that's basically a painful surprise party. Giving our horse a clear and consistent signal before the signal that change is coming is key to clear communication. A horse doesn't need to know exactly what is coming, just that change is coming so that then they have time to prepare both mentally and physically. People are the same way. We don't need to know all the details, but predictability makes us feel safe. And without it, our nervous system goes straight into defense, just like a horse. A perfect example of poor communication is asking a horse to stop. If you suddenly pull on the reins expecting a horse to have an immediate halt, the horse physically cannot do that. Horses naturally carry 60 to 70% of their body weight on their front end. So to stop correctly, the horse must flex their rib cage, shift that excess weight off of their shoulders and back onto their hindquarters. And this is going to take a stride or two. Time and again, I see riders complain that their horses are front end heavy, but the real issue is they aren't communicating effectively. And the horse isn't getting enough warning to move their body around, let alone time to prepare. The horse is just trying to comply, but without space and notice, they just end up jamming on the brakes. Here is an example of what clear communication should look like. When I'm teaching a horse to stop, I do it in 4 strides. Stride 1, I sit down. Stride 2, I take off my legs and I throw them forward. Stride 3, I say whoa. Stride 4, then and only then, if the horse hasn't already stopped, I pick up on the reins if needed. With this approach, a horse has time to think about what's coming by reading my body language, and then what the horse needs to do with their body to prepare. After a few times practicing this, a horse will start to catch on so quickly and will really start rating that stop to where you will hardly ever have to touch the reins to get them to stop again. The same principle applies to turns. Horses need warning to prepare mentally and physically. Sudden pulls or jerks on the reins throw them off balance and can make them tense and scared. Each signal should build off the last, giving them the time to read your body and respond. If there is only one thing you remember from today, I want it to be this. Soft hands do not make soft horses. Clear communication makes soft horses. Now, once consistency and communication are in place, the horse can finally organize their body effectively. And this is where true collection comes in. Now, who here can tell me what true collection is? And who here struggles with collecting their horses? A common misconception that many people are taught is that collection is when a horse lowers his head. While that's kind of true, the low headset is actually the last step of collection and is actually more of a byproduct because their head is a counterweight for balance. True collection is when a horse rounds his back, transferring the excess weight off of their shoulders through their rib cage and back onto their hindquarters. When the horse can transfer that weight, it's able to engage its powerful hindquarters, which then allows the shoulders to free up and move around efficiently like the smooth steering wheel that it's meant to be. And then the head will naturally lower as a result of that. This is why when I'm starting off training a horse, I don't even care where his head is at. I care more about how soft are their rib cage, because that serves as my bridge for that weight moving around. If I don't have a soft rib cage, I will never get an engaged horse or a low headset. Most people wonder if they will feel a hump in their horse's back when the horse rounds his rib cage. The answer is no. It's actually more of a muscle flex, and you are not going to feel that through a saddle. What you will feel is the power of that horse driving its hind end up under themselves, being able to steer more easily and feel a more engaged stride. When the back is hollowed out, that's when you're going to feel a horse that swings his butt, refuses to lower its head, and has a choppy stride. If you want to make your horse's life easier, improve your success rate, and truly sharpen your communication, you have to understand what may be the most important piece of all, the release of pressure. The unique thing about pressure is that Mother Nature teaches horses to naturally push into pressure. This is how a foal will find its milk, or a horse pushes into a predator to launch away. And as trainers, we teach the opposite. We can use pressure successfully by applying just enough to make the wrong thing difficult, and then the moment that they offer the right answer, we release that pressure and immediately say, yes, that's it. This works so well because the biggest reward that we can give our horse is not treats or pets, it's being left alone. Leaving them alone for several seconds to process and marinate on what just happened before we go asking for more. If you can get really good at noticing the slightest try from your horse and releasing that pressure immediately like a hot potato, that is the quickest way to flip the switch from the reactive side to the thinking side of their brain, which is going to get the horse wanting to try even harder for you. To wrap up, good horsemanship isn't about doing more. It's about understanding that manual your horse has been following for 55 million years. And when you're clear, consistent, and aware, everything gets easier. And a solid foundation is where that starts. If you have any additional questions, whether they're horsemanship related or more on the goal setting personal development side, please come find me, reach out. I love having those conversations. Thank you for tuning in to Horsemanship Growth and Gratitude with Miranda and Horsemanship. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a friend who loves horses as much as we do. And while you're at it, please be sure to check out my website, mirandaallyn.net. That's ALLYN, to stay updated on the launch of my upcoming online course, Essentials of Horsemanship. And until our next time, remember, horsemanship is in the details.